Ladies and gentlemen, today is Thursday, October 17th, 2024, and we are back for day 23 of Project Halloween, in which we try to make a completed game, everything from planning to prototyping to polishing to publishing, all within just a little over a month and a half. The official challenge will end on November 1st, the day after Halloween ends, but we will probably continue working on the project well after that. In fact, it probably won't be completed and ready and fully published until probably next Halloween. But my goal is to at least have as much as we can done before Halloween. We'll see how far we get and then make an assessment from there. It might be nice to have a demo out by the end of the year even. But we are continuing to work on our game Harvest Reaper, which is a gothic farming sim in a 2.5D style, similar to what you would see in Don't Starve or Paper Mario, with a bit of a Tim Burton gothic aesthetic. If I look a little bit tired at the moment, I will explain that in a minute. It's not actually because I haven't been sleeping well or that I had a bad day. In fact, I actually slept pretty well last night and have had a really good day so far. Woke up feeling really energized and excited, went for a nice walk out in the nature preserve down near where I live, getting out in the nice autumnal foresty wetlands. Very beautiful. I have a couple pictures of that on the Discord if you'd like to see. Came back, had a good meal, and overall feeling pretty happy with the progress that we've been making on this project. But what's got me a little bit frustrated, a little bit tired, a little bit burnt out at the moment is we've all had these experiences where, you've been putting something off and eventually it comes time where you just have to face it. Nobody likes doing chores. There are certain things that we have to do. So today, something that we are going to be doing is refactoring our item system yet again to try and make it work with our inventory system and the grid building systems that we have built in previous episodes. So I will be completely transparent with you that it is going to be a slog. This is not going to be fun, but it is necessary work because that is going to make everything else going forward a lot easier, because we will be able to test out the other systems in game rather than having to do little micro prototypes, actually trying to build out a fully fleshed functional system that can spider out to work with a whole bunch of other systems. Most of you probably have no idea what any of that means. Basically, it means we're going to be making items. We're going to be finding a way to turn those items into pickups, having those pickups go into our inventory, creating a hotbar, cycling through the hotbar, being able to select tools and items that we can then place into the world and interact with them, and having a system that changes which other systems we're interacting with depending on what item it is that we are holding. So again, this is it's like that pile of dirty laundry that that you have to contend with. It's, the sink full of dishes kind of thing that you just kind of have to knuckle down and get through, and then hopefully you'll feel a lot better at the end. But this is going to be a little bit of a slog, as I said. I am not looking forward to it at all, but hopefully we will get to something fun on the other end. If I didn't have the time constraints on this, I would probably just skip that and either take a day off or do some more gray boxing and level design or even art, which is always very fun. But speaking of all of that, so I really need to update the cover of this at some point. But as you can see, so this is what is on the docket for today, trying to get as much of this done as possible. And the difficult part isn't even in just creating the items itself. It's figuring out the architecture behind it, figuring out the abstraction behind it to make it in such a way that will be modular and future-proof, and that isn't going to require a lot of redundancy. So that is what has mainly got me burnt out at the moment, is just trying to think about how to architect that. But one reason why I keep doing these streams, actually, is because I find that my commitment to you, to actually continue to make progress and to make something and to show off what we are working on is actually keeping me motivated. It's one of the things that helps me to be able to do these 12-hour live streams, is just the expectation that you guys have for seeing me actually doing something, where I can't just go and watch a video or get up and walk around and hang outside and procrastinate. I actually have to be working when I'm on stream, because otherwise you guys will not continue to watch that. So that is one thing that keeps me motivated to keep working on this, and one reason why I continue to stream all these, even though we are starting a little bit later today. So we did go ahead and clean up our starting area a little bit. So we still have these items here. So let me just show you real quick what we have in case you are new here. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, welcome. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button so you know when we release new content and when we go live. Of course, if you miss any of our live streams, you can always check out the VODs. We have entire playlists on this channel documenting the entire progress of not just this game, but other previous games we've worked on, such as the GMTK Jam, the Sasquatch Studios Game Jam, the Pirate Software Jam. We also have art streams on this channel if you are looking to get into art. So let's actually maximize this. So we have our character here. You can see actually already our grid system is kind of working. We can place things down. There's nothing to be placed yet. Also not sure why our character keeps getting stuck on things. I will have to figure that out at some point. But we can pick up these items that are on the ground. We can come over here, get a really nice big one. We have these warp points that light up. So something that I went ahead at the end of last stream and did is we eventually placed a grid down here. This will be your farming, your cattle ranching area. So like just kind of boxing in nice big grassy field. So we can come get that warp point. We can warp back if we want to, but I'm not going to do that just yet. So we have the Elysian Fields here, which this will be where you go and you buy the seeds for your crops. Always love going through there, where it's like the Rockettes with all of the trees just kind of coming towards you. And so if we hover in the doorways, it'll give us little context menus. So here we will actually warp back to the Nemesine, which is your starting farm. And we can come down over here. This will be the Asphodelos Fields, which will connect to, it's kind of just a little hub area where you can get some forage. That'll be for the city of Dis. We can come up to here. A lot of this is just placeholder for now. This will be Death's Orchards. I forgot to mention that we are the child of Death incarnate, tired of our life as a Grim Reaper. This is the Palace of Death, where certain swanky functions will be held. So we have your sister's room, your father's room, your room, at least your home room, before you eventually go and take over the Nemesine and that farm over there. But yes, you are the child of death. You are tired of your life as a Grim Reaper. You have looked upon the mortal world and seen that they are pretty happy with life on the farm, and you want that for yourself. I also need to disable that if there is no grid. And this will be the Acheron Docks. I should maybe rename it to like the Port of Acheron or something. And this will be where you go and you judge the souls of the recently deceased. They will line up here. Acheron will come over on the river here. You'll have like quest items that you can come and interact with here. These will be various shops and taverns. And then connecting over to, for instance, the Stygian Swamp, which we have yet to build out. There will be another little grid here that you can build things in. Actually, I think it's down over in this area, but we eventually have to build that out. And then this will take us back to the Asphodelos fields, and everything is nice and connected like that. So that is what we have so far. You can see we've got stamina and health bars, and at one point we did have tools working, but we accidentally deleted our character prefab, so which is fine because we had to remake everything anyway. I think that's doing that when I interact with the... Interesting, it's when we interact with the stick and the mouse at the same time. Hello, Krios. How's it going, buddy? We missed you yesterday. You didn't show up yesterday. And then we'll have little docks and stuff where you can just go and you can fish off of them. So that is what we have so far. So now we need to get into the business of actually creating our inventory system, which is the part that I am not looking forward to. I'm almost wondering if I need to go make myself a coffee before we do that. Oh, you're recording stuff? That's okay. All right, but let us get some music going. I'm actually going to change it up a little bit. So been noticing that some of the tracks that we've been getting have been giving us copyright flags. Sadly, there's no way to know ahead of time whether that is the case or not. It's pretty much hit or miss here in the Wild West of YouTube. So I'm going to try out some different soundtracks today, and we will see how that goes. So I've never played Sunhaven, but it is another farming type sim. Sort of like a magical, mystical version of Stardew Valley. So we'll see how appropriate the music is for that. First of all, set that back to normal speed. Turn that down a little bit. Let me know if the music is too loud or too quiet. All right, so somewhere here we have items. So item is going to be the basis of all our items. So item data. So item is a mono behavior. So our inventory takes in a list of item data SO. So our hotbar is basically going to be the first 10 slots of our inventory. So item just says data and count. Item data. We have a bunch of different types. Got some good guitar recordings, but he's not your friend anymore because you don't believe the earth is flat. Uh-oh. That reminds me of one of my teachers, Santos Bonacci, who was a very brilliant guy. I learned a lot about a lot of things from him, but he eventually, in his old age, started going crazy and eventually cut me off for similar reasons. All right, just trying to refresh my memory here of what all we have. Okay, so then pickups. So pickup extends item. So one thing we hadn't done before was make it so that the inventory is expandable. Where is our inventory test? What happens if we just do that? Two audio listeners in the scene, so let's just get rid of that first of all. I don't know why it constantly insists on setting those, but... All right, so we have our inventory manager. Okay, so that's all of the inventory stuff. Oh, that makes sense. So how is this getting populated at the moment? All right, so somewhere in here we have a bunch of data. again, stop putting those on there. Thank you. So if we hit play, so when we open the inventory, we should hide the HUD, we should lock the player controls, meaning set the controls to UI. And then when we close it, we should show the UI again and return that back. Okay, so inventory manager. Resources, persist objects. Probably turn hot reload on. But yeah, so tell me more about this story with your friend. Static, UI manager instance, private void. Public. He was a big Jesus head, but he was going around saying he was God. Wow. Now I'm even more intrigued. He was a big Jesus head, but he was going around saying he was God, and I'm the one who's sick, big into death metal. Kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watched that show Moral Oral, but it was kind of like a claymation stop motion thing put out by, I think it was Adult Swim, like the same people who made, not the same people, but like the same network that had stuff like Robot Chicken. So like it was very irreverent. It was mocking all of like the sensitivity of like really diehard Christians. So they have stuff like the lost commandments, which are things that were never actually said by God in the Bible or anywhere else, but are generally taken to be as dogma. So like the lost 14th commandment, thou shalt always use the missionary position, man on top, when having sex, kind of thing. Just to like poke fun at sort of like the prudish and absurd nature of those belief systems. Public static void. Public static void? No, static void. Public satanic void. That would be kind of amusing. Public satanic void. Wonder if there's a way for you to make your own keywords. Hmm. He brought over an ozone device to clean the air, and he added oxygen and hydrogen to his water. and had another device that was said to cure addiction and parasites with low voltage currents. I actually have several of those things. So like we have air filters in this house. I don't know that any of them necessarily use ozone, but I've heard of such devices. And then my father actually does have this device that is said to inject extra oxygen into the water. I don't remember offhand the exact process for it, but it supposedly makes it let's just say it makes it healthier in a way, similar to like the effects that you would get in like spring water. So like I've tried the water from it, and you know, it's definitely really good water, but I mean, I'm also not averse to just drinking filtered water. Mainly because there's like an entire process behind it. It seems like a lot more work than is worth the benefit. I don't know. And then as far as having devices that get rid of like addictions and parasites and bacteria and stuff, we have one of those too. I'm not going to go into any kind of detail about it, but suffice to say that it really does wonders. I don't know if your friend has the same one that I have, but they also have something called a wave watch. My aunt was telling me about this. So it's sort of like the same concept, but applied to a watch, wherein it emits certain electromagnetic frequencies that interact with your nervous system and the rest of your body. So depending on what frequencies it's attuned to, because your entire body is made up of electromagnetism, right? If you adjust the frequencies of the electromagnetism that you're being subjected to, it's why, like, if you've ever been in, say, like a laundromat or around like heavy power lines, you'll start to get a headache after a while. It's because the EMFs that are radiating off of those devices, or even if you're sitting in front of your computer all day, every day for too long, then you don't get up periodically, or you don't have other devices that counteract those effects, that you'll start to feel awful. So, in terms of those things, your friend is probably correct. Maybe not the specific iterations that he has, but in principle, a lot of those things are sound. Um... Public static. Their inventory instance. Pretty sure he was manic depressive. Out of nowhere, he would start crying, talking about killing people. I don't know your friend's situation, so I can't really comment. Without knowing anything about him, if I had to guess, I would say he probably had what's known as shit life syndrome, wherein you're just stuck in an awful situation and you feel like you can't get out of it. So feeling depression at the hopelessness of it, and anger at, you know, frustration towards the people that put you in that situation, the people who have better lives than you do. Right? So like imagine you're walking down the road of life and a bunch of bandits come along and they beat you and maul you and rob you and throw you into a pit and leave you for dead, sort of like Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And you're just kind of stuck in a hole for a while. And you cry and cry and call for help, but nobody's coming to save you. And the walls are made of sand, so even trying to climb out, you know, the harder you struggle, the deeper you sink, kind of thing. And so you're completely at the mercy of anybody who passes by. You know, you'd be angry and depressed at that too. Or another example, another metaphor would be like imagining you're walking through a forest with a bunch of people and you go first through it and you step on a landmine and you blow out your legs. Okay. So now you're basically crippled for the rest of your life, but you still have to go through this forest, right? And it's incredibly difficult and you don't want to be carried, right? You want to pull your own weight in spite of everything that's happened. But at the same time, you know, you feel helpless and ashamed at the fact that you are now permanently crippled. You need other people's help, right? But you don't want their pity. You don't want their help. You just want to be whole again, and you're never going to be whole again. And then on top of that, right, it would be bad enough if you had like the very visceral example, a very visible example of your legs being blown off. People could just take one look at you and understand immediately, like, oh, I understand. You are not a whole, complete person. You are crippled. You are disabled. You need extra assistance. You will not be able to do certain things. And we make allowances for that. But with things like mental health, it's very invisible, right? So like somebody who has been traumatized has been metaphorically, allegorically, had their legs blown off, and they are crippled and disabled, possibly for life. Maybe, we don't know, right? Maybe there's a way to fix them and heal them and make them whole again. Maybe not, right? But because it's not as visible as having your legs blown off or some sort of physical disability, it's very difficult for people to understand and empathize and relate with that. Right? So imagine you having your legs blown off and yet people still expecting you to walk and to run and to hike and to climb. That's kind of what living with mental health is like, or with mental health issues is like. And you try to explain to them, I literally can't do the same things that you can. And they don't understand because either they've never been through it themselves, or they haven't had the experience of somebody who's been through that themselves, or they just can't see or understand, and maybe you can't explain it well enough to them. One minute he says he loves you because he doesn't have friends like you, and next I'm a piece of crap. He was getting better while with me, but he says he can't get a job and has been starving. Yeah, I told him that too. So one thing that one of my teachers said very long ago, which is very kind of stuck with me, is the idea that hurt people hurt people. Does that make sense? So it's easier if I write it out. Right? Hurt people, meaning people who are hurt, then go on to hurt other people. So this is not a universal rule. There are sometimes just people who are evil scumbags in the world. But for the most part, if somebody is lashing out at you, if somebody is acting very crazy or strange, it's because something has happened to them at some point to cause them to be like that. So to go back to the analogy of having your legs blown off, right? If you are somebody who had their legs blown off, then obviously there will be times where that will take a psychological toll on you, right? Set aside like the physical pain, although that's certainly part of it, right? Just the mental pain of being like having to come to grips with the fact that you are wholly and completely destroyed permanently, and that you may never recover from that, and that you will always be inferior to other people in many substantial ways, and those ways will sort of tend to isolate you from the rest of humanity, right? Because that person can't just go and join like a pickup game on a basketball court, sort of like wheelchair Special Olympics type of things, right? But like little interactions like that, they can never have again. And so by being cut off and isolated from the rest of humanity in that way, it can make one very bitter and resentful and depressed and angry to the point of wanting to lash out against people, right? And again, the sort of paradox of, you know, I want and need special treatment, but I don't want and need special treatment. In fact, there was a meme, I'm trying to remember how it goes. It's the effect of like ADHD is where, you know, like something along the lines of like you need help, but you don't like you, how do I phrase this? Give me a second to see if I can recall it. It was like the experience of ADHD is I function better when I have external support systems and people telling me what to do, but at the same time, I don't like anybody telling me what to do. Right? So that paradox there of like, I need people to tell me what to do in order to be successful, but I really, really, really resent and hate being told what to do by anybody because it feels like an encroachment on my freedom and makes me feel like a lesser human being. He says he has no friends. I never said I wasn't going to be his. I gave him nothing but love, and when it was over, he said we are not friends. So I look at it from the point of view of a healer, right? Imagine that you're a doctor, right? Imagine you're a world-class doctor, even. Even the best doctor cannot save everybody. There are some people that are just too far gone, or we just don't understand enough about the way that things work, whatever ails them, in order to cure them. Maybe at best we can help them find a little bit of comfort. But this is the whole point behind the idea of triage, is there are people that you can definitely save if you intervene. There are people that will survive whether you intervene or not, and then there are people that, no matter what you do, just cannot be saved. Right? And sometimes in the medical profession, that can even lead up to the point of the patient dying. And sometimes even dying a horrible, painful death, you know, like drowning in their own fluids from like pneumonia or some shit. And that's a very difficult thing to deal with, especially if you're somebody who's motivated by compassion and a desire to help and fix other people. But unfortunately, not everybody can be saved, or at the very least, not everybody can be saved by you, right? So you have different tiers of healers. So maybe the person could theoretically be healed by someone given enough time and attention, but you don't have enough hours in the day, you don't have enough patience, you don't have the resources and the skills needed to do all that is necessary to help them. And that is a very difficult thing to cope with. Right, so for instance, I talk about my asshole cousin, right? My treacherous, treasonous cousin, whom I loved, who I actually had a closer relationship with him than I did with my own blood brother. Right? He was with me at some of my darkest moments in my life. And I, at times, was the only person who stuck around with him long enough to try and help him through his darkest moments. So like at one point in our lives, we were the only ones that each other had. And yet, even despite all of that, he still turned around and threw me under the bus one too many times, right? Literally leaving me for dead at one point. And it's like, I can't keep doing this. We are done. You are dead to me. And that was very difficult because in a lot of ways, I was dependent on him to sort of pick up my shortcomings. And so I had to walk away from that relationship. And he's not the type of person who is particularly introspective, who's going to come around to realize what an asshole he was to me. Except for maybe like many, many, many years from now. So that relationship might be completely destroyed at this point. And as somebody who is a healer, okay, who has the temperament of a healer and a teacher, that's very painful. To come to grips with the fact that some people can't be helped, don't want to be helped, don't want to be taught, don't want to learn. Right? They say there are no bad students, only bad teachers. It's like, well, at the same time, it's like, I can only do what I can do. I can only do the best that I can do. And if my best isn't good enough, that's an unfortunate thing to come to grips with. Similar to parenting, right? Sometimes your parents do the best that they can do, but their best is not good enough. Their best is not what you needed. And that can be a very difficult thing to come to grips with, because it's like, how can you expect anybody to do more than their best? If somebody is already doing 120%, then it's frankly unreasonable to ask any more of them. But at the same time, even 120% is not getting the job done. So it's like, what do you do at that point? All right, back to what we're working on here. He had ADHD too in a way. I can finish songs, but he would not let me. Every time we would work on a song, he would get bored of it. And okay, so there actually is. I was watching something recently on that. Um, I think it was this one about why habits don't work. So there's a number of videos on here about ADHD specifically, but this one is one that they just came out with last week, and which I've kind of been trying to apply myself. So basically the idea is like, if you are somebody who has ADHD or is just chaotic in general and can't seem to focus, it's like, how do you develop consistent habits that we know scientifically lead to greater chances of success, and just sort of how to deal with that. There's also, I forget which video he talks about it, but basically the hunter hypothesis of ADHD. So the idea is that you have humans originally started as hunter-gatherers, and then we later settled down to form agricultural societies as farmers. And civilization sort of sprung up on the back of farmer society, because farming requires you to be engaged in delayed gratification and forward thinking, because it's not like, oh, here's a deer, right? Here's an antelope. I just go, I see the thing, I kill it, right? Like, ooh, squirrel, right? You have to wait. You have to be patient. You have to cultivate. Okay. And that requires patience. That requires time. It requires stillness. It requires consistency. It requires habits. It requires cycles. Okay. And all of society built up on the backs of on agriculture and farming. But genetically, we still have the hunter disposition within us, right? So people with ADHD are much more geared towards the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, where everything is chaotic, nothing is consistent, right? You see something, you go after it immediately, because there is no stability, right? It's just get what you can while you can. And that is very maladaptive for a society that is based around farming culture, around stability, around consistency, around habits. So talking about environments in which that type of mindset can thrive. So like the internet, for instance, being a variety channel, where it's like it's something new every day, where you're not necessarily tethered to the limits of the physical world. So I thought that was a very fascinating hypothesis, which actually seems to explain a lot. It explains why ADHD is a thing. It explains when and where and why it can be adaptive, and also why it's maladaptive. Showed him my games too, and he said he liked them. Nice. Which ones did you show him? Showed him Spellweaver? Nice. Um... No worries. All right. I actually, I'm going to stop for a second to go use the bathroom, and I'll be right back. All right, I am back, and we have brought with us coffee, so we should be good to go. Trying to decide if I want to make this its own separate inventory. Apparently having YouTube issues. Hello. So it looks like we just lost the music and lost chat, at least in OBS. Not sure how to get that back. That's not good. And now I can't click on anything, it seems. I can click on Unity stuff, but we lost music. So like I can bring it up here, but it doesn't want to stay open. I close chat. Exception unknown software exception occurred. OBS browser page.exe. So why is OBS causing Brave browser to not work? Sign-in process couldn't display security and sign-in options when Control-Alt-Delete was pressed. Windows doesn't respond, press escape or use power switch to restart. weird. Wonder why that's happening. Task manager. I don't want to have to restart OBS. Some weird glitch thing going on. So apparently I have 30 Unity Hub things open for some reason. Not sure why. Normally when this happens, my only recourse is to restart the computer, which would mean ending the stream, which I am loath to do. Right now, just going through Task Manager, seeing if I can do anything here. All right. That's unfortunate. So I have two options. I can either keep calm and carry on as we are without music, and without the benefit of being able to see chat here, I would have to look over here. Or option two is we kill the stream, I restart my computer, and we hope that that clears it up. But I'm going to continue on for now. Until this becomes an issue. So you guys will just have to live without music. You'll just have to imagine the music. If it gets bad enough. See if that goes through. That goes through, so I can write to chat. I just can't read the chat. Yeah, so it's not connecting to YouTube Live. It's not connecting to the chat. This is what I'm getting here. So let's just keep going. Um, go into this and Wondering if instead of that we just make hotbar. Um, player inventory. Bar slot. Um, do we need to duplicate any of the other stuff? Slot and slots. Coder error occurred while recording, cannot allocate memory. Awesome. So that is just vying for... All right, so that completely killed off the recording. So I think what we may have to do is just kill the stream and restart, because OBS is definitely acting up now. Saying I don't have enough memory, but I don't have a lot of things open either. All right. Sadly, we shall have to kill that off and come back. So if you are watching this in the VOD or wherever, I'm going to end the stream and restart. So be sure to check back here, make sure to subscribe so that you get an announcement for it, or join the Discord, in which case I will publish an announcement about that. But I will be right back.